Hello, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you,
Yeah,
Esmail?
I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I will borrow your saying that you told me before that if you survive the new day, so it means you are good.
Yes, yes. If you wake up in the morning, everything is fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so actually, I'm so excited for today's episode that I feel like we will use the time machine and go the far back. Like we go so very back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the last century.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Okay. So we talk about your life events, and we'll start with your childhood phase.
Yeah.
Someone who's nostalgic, like I have a
Childhood.
nostalgia,
Yeah.
yeah, toward those old things or like those back days.
Yeah. The good old days.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll start with when and where were you born?
Okay. I'm originally from England. I was born in the northwest of England in a town on the coast. So I was lucky that I was between two environments when I was growing up. I could go and play on the beach or in the
Wow,
sandhills with my friends, or I could go in the opposite direction and be in fields with streams and ponds.
wow.
So,
Uh-huh.
and
So you have that combination.
yes, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and still to this day, I love the sea, but I also love the countryside. Um, I think I got that from my parents, who were, I wouldn't say they were um, naturally nature people, but they enjoyed both. So
Hmm.
I think I inherited that love from them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, I was about actually to ask you about like your neighborhood. So you already answered that, or you already explained that.
Mhm.
So, like, how about your parents? Like, what do you remember about them, or
There was
what memories do you have of them?
one of each, a man and a woman. Yeah, my father was very involved with the Boy Scouts, which is a youth group in the UK. For in those days, it was for boys. It was all about hiking, camping, tying knots, lighting fires, all the things that appeal to boys. And my mother was a homemaker.
Hmm.
Uh, she was always home,
Hmm.
uh, and I just remember it was no, it wasn't always summer. That's the wrong expression, but every day seemed comfortable, no worries. I was
Yeah.
confident my parents would could cope with anything.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I think I'd describe my background as lower middle class. My father
Uh-huh.
worked for the telephone company.
Hmm.
Uh, he um, he he was a worker,
Hmm.
but he was also a do it yourself person, and I think that's something another thing I've inherited from him. Instead of hiring somebody to do something, I'd rather do it myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is very much a British or my class of British attitude to life.
Hmm. Hmm. And who was strict, or who was more strict with you, like your mother or your father?
Oh, it was definitely my father.
Mhm.
I don't think she actually said, "Wait until your father gets home," but
Yes.
you knew that if you'd done something wrong, it would be my father who would deal the discipline, if you like, rather than
Yeah. Actually, at this point, that will lead us like to that question. Like, do you have a vivid memory of something you did and you were disciplined for?
yes, I do. My
Always.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something to be honest, I'm really ashamed of.
Hmm.
My um, there'd be about 8 or 10 boys from the neighbourhood, and we were down by the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember one of the boys throwing a stone,
Mm-hmm.
and it hit my brother on the head
Mm-hmm.
and cut his head, and he started bleeding.
Oh.
Yeah, uh, and I've sort of, are you okay? He said, yeah, but I'm going home. Okay. And he went, and I didn't take him home, which I know, looking back, would probably have been the best thing to do.
Yes, yes. Well, I believe that we all always had those situations actually.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so like how many siblings do you have?
yeah. Well, I only have one now. My brother died 2 years ago.
Oh,
My
yeah.
sister's still alive, she's younger than me.
Hmm.
But my brother was somebody who was much more determined than I am. I'm
Hmm.
wishy-washy, which means I can't always make up my mind, but I tend to go with the flow. I
Yeah.
go where my life takes me. My brother had more of a plan in his life.
Hmm. Hmm. And what memories do you have with each of them?
Well, with my brother, we used to play in
Hmm.
the garden. We used to, for all our foreign visitors, cricket, which nobody
Wow.
understands, um, and football. Um, but we did a lot of things together, but we also did a lot of things separately. We
Hmm.
were encouraged to develop our own personalities without it being said.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Were
and
you a
I
good football player?
It was terrible. I played with much more enthusiasm than skill.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
uh, the same habit today.
Hmm. Yeah.
But for me, that's the point of a sport, is to play it for fun. It's good
Yes.
to win, but if you lose, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. 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 I agree. Hmm. And
Uh,
how about your grandparents? Like, what memories do you have of them?
um, my grandfather was mother's side. My
Hmm.
father, my grandfather was a veteran of the First World War.
Hmm.
Uh, I remember we were much closer to my mother's side than my father's side, because my father's side, they were a bunch of weirdos. Um, but um, when my father, as I said, he was scouting, he'd go away for a fortnight during the summer,
Hmm.
and we'd go and stay with my maternal grandparents. He smoked a pipe,
Hmm.
and one of the things I remember is just sitting talking to him and preparing the tobacco
Uh-huh.
with him
Uh-huh.
and just relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and my uncle, who also at that time lived with my grandparents, he was in the RAF. He'd been conscripted, um, and I was always a little bit in awe of him because he'd been to Malaysia, and I honestly don't know what he did in Malaysia, but
Hmm.
I don't think it was anything that merited any medals, or not that we heard about anyway.
Yeah.
But um, he, it was he who bought the first car in the family,
Oh,
uh, and I can to this day remember the registration number.
like it
Uh,
seemed like number one or two or three, like in that age.
exactly, yes. I mean, we're going back to the 1950s. Um,
Oh,
Cars were certainly not common.
yeah.
Um, and he bought a car. My father passed his driving test
What
when
model? Do you remember?
my uncle's car was a Ford Prefect in black, registration number XFV479.
Wow, and you still remember it.
Exactly, yes.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
My father passed his driving test when he was about 5, and he bought our first family car, which was a big Ford Zephyr Mark II,
Mhm.
registration number MFV45. Again,
Wow.
something,
Yes,
something
yes.
stuck in your brain,
Yeah, yeah.
and that that changed what we did on our holidays. Instead of going somewhere by train,
Mhm,
which I
mhm.
loved traveling by train, still do, but
Yeah.
we'd put everybody in the car, mum and dad, and the sandwiches in the front, and the children sitting on the
In the
sleeping
back.
bags in the back,
Yeah. Yeah, the
things on.
typical picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Again, that sort of continues the outdoor theme because we travel all over the UK for our holidays, from the north of Scotland, John O'Groats, and down to Land's End, which is sort of top right to bottom left.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
So, like what you were like as a child, like to describe, like how to describe yourself as a
small and
child.
skinny, small and skinny.
Yeah, yeah. Like what did you do for fun? How was your personality back then? Um, like your relation with your friends, with your family.
Um, g- my childhood growing up with my family, looking back on it, was amazing.
Hmm.
We were a family,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, with friends, we all lived within half a mile of each other, and to be anything between 3 and 10 boys, girls. No, 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 not girls. Thank you, strange creatures. And we go, as I said, to the beach or to the sand hills, and or we get on our bikes and go out into the countryside.
Hmm.
So we, it was good. If it rained, one or two friends would come to our house, and
Hmm.
we'd have an electric train set and model cars. We'd have all sorts of stories, adventures.
Yeah.
Um, it was idyllic. I think is
Hmm.
probably the best
Yeah.
expression.
So, this is really, I like this question about allowance. Like, did you get an allowance and how much?
Oh,
And
wow, yes. Yeah, when I was about 8, my parents decided to give us pocket money. We
uh-huh.
called it an allowance. Um, I was the oldest, so I got a shilling. My
Oh,
brother was younger than me. He got sixpence, and my
wow.
sister,
Uh-huh.
every 5 years or so, that it would increase slightly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, did you spend it like right away, or you keep it like you were like thrift, or?
Um, it depended. If you wanted something,
Hmm.
then you saved up for it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it was everybody down to the sweet shop.
Hmm. You know, like because I'm talking about like that era or that age, like there weren't those tempting things like nowadays. You know,
So,
like big malls, supermarket, the social media, like buying online. You know, so like how's life back there?
okay, I lived in a fairly small town, and everything came from small shops.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't have any. Well, we did have one supermarket, but
Hmm.
I used to go there with my mother, or maybe once a week. But
Yeah.
again, you've just reminded me of something. Um, when we talking back about DIY, we used to
Hmm.
build what we called go karts, which
Hmm.
was a plank of wood or two planks of wood with wheels on the back and smaller wheels at the front to steer.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, we had a railway ran through the town with the station, and obviously the road had to go over it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives a nice hill, nice wide footpath, and all the little shops at the side. And one of the challenges was to sit on your go-kart at the top of the hill, ride down as fast as you can, and
Yeah.
when you went past the grocer's, try and grab an apple.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm a criminal from a very early age.
Yeah, so that's will lead us to another question. Like, were you a good student?
Um, I sort of talking to other people, and it sounds terrible, but I was too intelligent to be a good student. I
Really?
found, yeah, I found things too easy, and if they were easy, they were boring.
Yes,
So
yes.
when I was at primary school, I was sent down a year
Ah,
to reset a year.
yes.
But I enjoyed school. I had good friends. We generally had a good time.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
But at, in the UK at that time, we had what we called the 11 plus exam,
Hmm,
where you took the exam. If you passed the exam, you would go to a grammar school, which was
hmm.
the sort of intellectual school, or you went to a secondary modern school, which is more practice based for butchers and carpenters. I passed my 11 plus when I was 10.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
I went to the grammar school, and first, certainly the first 3 years, I coasted. I didn't apply myself. I was having too good a time.
Hmm,
And then
hmm.
suddenly you get called on by one of the teachers. If you don't buck up your ideas, an expression meaning if you don't dedicate yourself, don't work harder, then you'll have to go to a secondary modern.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that um, that was a shock to my system.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
I had to I had to not rethink my life. You don't rethink your life at 13, but I had to change my attitude.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But I believe those grammar schools not exist anymore.
some do, but they're generally private schools now.
Hmm, hmm,
I know the school I went to is now quite an important grammar school in the area.
hmm.
It's 3 times the size it was. When I was there, there were 360 boys.
Uh-huh.
But now they have girls, and it's not what.
Yeah. So, did you have like heroes or role models when you were a child?
Um, Not per se, and not as an exact person. No, I wanted to join the flying section of the Royal Navy.
Hmm.
Um, I applied and failed, which was a bit disappointing.
Yes.
Um, so again, I just I dedicated myself to enjoying my life, and I think probably getting away with doing the bare minimum to survive.
Hmm. So, where did your family go on the vacations?
Okay, as I mentioned before, we went everywhere because
Really?
we were, well, we never left Great Britain
Uh-huh.
because there's a lot to see in Great Britain. You go from, if anybody's familiar with the map of England, you've got John O'Groats in the top right hand corner and Land's End in the bottom left hand corner. And we would go, we went camping.
Hmm.
Uh, we had My parents had a tent. My brother and I shared a tent. My sister slept with my parents to begin with, and we gradually each ended up with a tent of our own, which was something I carried on with my son.
Hmm.
With the advantage of camping was if you didn't like a place, you've paid for the night, you can just pack up and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
if you booked a hotel, you're stuck in a hotel for a week or a fortnight, whether you like it or not.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
uh, I think that's probably what encouraged my love of traveling.
Yeah. What did you enjoy the most in your family's vacations?
Being outdoors, either on the beach, by the sea, or in the hills, walking. And as I say, we were quite I wouldn't say close knit family, but we all got on well together.
Yeah, this is
Uh,
the best, actually. Yeah.
it is, yeah. And
Mm.
my father was very enthusiastic. He never pushed any of us, but he would suggest and encourage.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So you thought, well, I was brought up. If you don't try it, you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you try it, you might like it. If you don't like it, okay, we'll do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what did you want to be when you were grow up?
Well, as I said, I wanted to join the Fleet Air Arm,
Uh huh.
uh, failed, and again, going back to super, my procrastination self, I failed my advanced level exams the first time, so I had to resit my final year at the
Hmm.
school, which
Hmm.
was a great thing because I got involved in school activities in sport. And when I finished at grammar school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be something artistic.
Hmm.
So I went to our local careers advisory service, and we talked about what I enjoyed. He said, well, the take, I believe there are places to do on the architecture course in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, Liverpool. I've never been to Liverpool. Oh,
So, what inventions do you most remember?
I'm sorry. What do you mean by inventions, Esmail?
For us, for example, in our childhood phase, like we can talk about the computer, the internet, the smartphones, like. Uh,
All this, oh,
yeah,
again, sounding like my grandfather. We made our own amusement in those days.
yeah, yeah.
But I think you develop skills. Uh,
Hmm.
for example, I can remember competitions with my brother and my father, skimming stones across the
Hmm.
surface of the water. It's a game we
Yes,
call
yes, yeah, yes,
breaks.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was better than sitting on a Game Boy and
Hmm.
doing it on a computer screen. You're actually doing it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's one of the things I've carried on. I encourage my son to do is instead of doing everything electronically, do it in
Hmm.
person.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's more satisfaction in it, I think.
Exactly, exactly. So, what's different about growing up today and when you were growing up back in the days?
Um,
And
I
actually,
think
this is interesting point.
partly television. Um, in the old days when I was growing up, there wasn't 24-hour television. We had two TV channels, which started at 6 p.m. in the evening and
Yes, I remember.
finished at midnight. And
Uh-huh, yes.
we were limited to the amount of television we could watch, and you could only watch if you'd finished your home. Um, so there was an incentive.
Hmm. Actually, it
Then,
has like its uniqueness. It had like always those available things like we took it for granted,
mhm,
um
yeah,
but when you like we still like, have some excitement, like you wait for something, so it has its pleasure, you know.
Yes, yeah, the anticipation is part of the pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Do you
but then
consider nowadays is a rubbish life
not rubbish. It's just
in
different.
comparison to the past?
No, I think I learnt things in those days that were relevant that maybe
Hmm.
aren't as relevant for kids today. But
Hmm.
as I said before, we made our own amusement. If we got bored,
Yes.
we found something to do. We didn't just switch on the tablet and play Pokemon, for
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
we, there were all sorts of strange little memories. Um, my brother and I had we had excuse me, a spare room in the house, and we were told we could do whatever we wanted with it
The
to
crime
turn
room.
to well, we could do whatever we wanted with it, so we could paint it however we wanted, and it started off great, but it took us 10 years to finish the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you feel did you waste your childhood, or you enjoyed the most
No,
of your
I,
childhood?
I certainly enjoyed it. I could have done things differently,
Hmm.
and maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I suppose
Yeah.
I could have been a brain surgeon, but
Yes.
I've ended up doing something I enjoy almost by accident, and it's
Yeah.
partly due to the things we did, the things we learnt, the experience we had as children.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, thank you for your this incredible experience. I really enjoyed actually, and
Good, thank you,
yeah, we will keep doing it.
Ismail. Thank you for asking. You brought many memories back.